Well, everybody, I'm Dr. Joe Bofill, and here we are again on one of our spinal workshops. And today we have a wonderful special guest, one of our practice members, Lisa Stewart. Lisa is a Norwex independent consultant. I said it right.
Yes, you did.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So when I say cleaner, better, right, let's get back to that screen. Cleaner, safer, and better. What comes to your mind? Having Lisa here today is an opportunity to have that alliance of showing how chiropractic allows you to have a better choice in your health and a healthier lifestyle, but also with Norwex and what Lisa has discovered over a period of time of digging in and reading labels and doing things differently. So Lisa, today it's about you sharing and allowing us to explore so that other people can really get that light, that understanding, that enlightenment. That's the better word I could use.
Good word. Well, thank you, Dr. Joe. I'm so excited to come because this has become part of my life. You know, when I wear a shirt like this, I literally do live Norwex now. But that's not the only piece of health in my life. I am a person who loves to come for my chiropractic adjustments because that is one part. I've started making different swaps in my home over the years, and when I was introduced to Norwex, I will admit I'm a bit of a clean freak. I am. I love to clean, but I'm also a germaphobe. So I would have been the person who used bleach and touched it with my bare hands. I used disinfectant wipes all over my home. I would have lathered my kids up with hand sanitizer at church or any place we were going. We were around people. So much so that when we go to Knoebels, I would even ask them to take their shoes off before they got in the car. It was a big thing for me in my life. And so when I was introduced to Norwex and my friend invited me to an in-home demonstration, I thought, I think I found my people. I love to clean. But I thought I was going to be introduced to cleaning sprays and products that maybe had safer ingredients, but I had no idea what it was going to open up for me in the long run. So I was able to start exploring things when I first realized I never even read the back of a package on the chemicals that I was using. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but have you ever read the back of any package of disinfectant wipes or any cleaner?
I have, because of just my background of digging in deeper, especially when it comes to food. Foods that we purchase that are processed foods. A lot of people say, well, why do you talk to people about how to eat? They know how to eat. Yeah, they know how to eat the wrong things.
Right.
But the more, and this is one thing that we do here at Bofill Family Chiropractic, especially in our nutritional consultations, is teaching people how to choose different foods.
Correct.
And changing their lifestyle of eating. And that enlightenment of reading that label can expound your territory of understanding what you're actually putting into your body.
Correct.
And what it does to you.
Correct. So when I go into someone's home, whether I'm doing a one-on-one consultation or we do a demonstration where they bring friends and family in, I always talk about the way that chemicals can come in. And you just touched on one. Ingestion, right? So we can absorb the pesticides on foods. There's so many ingredients that are toxic in a lot of the chemically processed foods that we eat. That's one way that our bodies take in chemical. Another is through inhalation, just by breathing. Years ago, I used to use a particular product in my bathroom because I thought that's what took care of soap scum, right? Okay. So I'd go in, spray the whole thing down, and I would have to leave the room because I would start coughing and I would get a headache.
Okay.
That was my body letting me know that wasn't okay for me, but I didn't have another alternative at that time.
And I bet most people think that's normal because of that chemical. Oh, we got to get out of here. It's doing its thing in the environment. But how that cloud that we can't see is affecting us.
Correct.
Inside.
Because right now the statistic is indoor air pollution is 5 times more damaging than outdoor air pollution.
Wow.
So opening your windows is a big deal, right? But also using the right things in our home can really make a huge difference in overall health. So we talked about ingestion, inhalation. I'll give you one simple example, and then absorption. Absorption is something I'm very passionate about because I had ignored it for so long, never realizing that it was such a big deal. Because everything that we touch, and this can include the lotions we wear, it can include the shampoo and conditioner we put on our head, or the cleaning chemicals that we bring into our home, it absorbs into our skin as fast as 26 seconds.
Wow.
So we don't really think about it because we're
No.
just grabbing it and we do our thing, but our skin is our largest organ and it absorbs. And so with that absorption and that 26 seconds, it actually can reach our bloodstream in 10 minutes, and that impacts our overall health. When I started being acquainted with those kind of thought processes, it got me to the point where I was ready to open myself up to say, well, what am I using that's helpful for my family? And what am I using that's harmful for my family? And how can I make better choices?
Sure. Boy. And you and I talked about this before we started in front of the camera, is that choices is the huge part. Because
Correct.
statistically, researchers in Duke had said that it's not cancer, it's not heart disease, it's not diabetes that create ultimate death in people. It is, unfortunately, the power of our choices.
Yes.
And so, choose wisely, truly.
Absolutely.
And, one could look at and listen to what we're saying, at how quickly things can happen and transpire, and when we are either ingesting, breathing in, inhaling, absorbing. You could become such a nervine too, or fearful about how quickly things can change. But then the other aspect is just totally shutting off and like, well, whatever happens, happens.
Right.
And that's what
I've
most people
absolutely. I've had
live
people say,
in this world.
I've used chemicals my whole life and there's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
But then you have to, again, pause. Is there? Are you on a lot of medications? Are you experiencing asthma, respiratory issues? Are you experiencing skin sensitivities? Are our children experiencing these things in larger quantities and at earlier rates than we did in our generation?
Much earlier rate. And something very similar to that in the realm of like chiropractic is our posture.
Yes.
I mean, let's think about this. Our posture over a period of time creates bad health because we're destroying those pathways or that conduit for everything to flow properly because of how we're sitting. And then our body has to adapt. It's a fearfully and wonderfully made organism, but that adaptation happens because of the stress in the environment.
Yes.
A little bit ago, you and I were talking about body burdens.
Yes.
And, and I said, well, that's very true. There are body burdens, but in one respect, it's stress. Stress to our body, whether it's physical, chemical, or emotion, is going to create dis-ease within our body. So when we're in bad posture for a period of time, for example, I'd use my phone as an example, but right now it's being used to tape this, that everybody's like this, and their heads are down, and that we call it tech neck now because we're on the computers, our iPads, our laptops, and we're constantly in that flex position. I had a colleague who was a president of a chiropractic college and had a wonderful practice in Canada where he had to retire because they told him that he wasn't going to live much longer because he had an enlarged heart and he had pulmonary hypertension. It was all due to his flexed position. So he started doing postural exercises, and he's a chiropractor. He got adjusted, but maybe not consistently enough. Once every so often may not be enough for most people. But those adjustments that he got on that regimen, and over a period of time, not just 12 visits or one visit, it was a period of time, things changed, and he is still alive today.
That's awesome.
He proved them wrong just by changing his posture and opening up those pathways.
God really did create our bodies to heal.
Yeah.
So even if someone watching is saying, oh, well, I have been not standing up straight, or I haven't used chiropractic as a way to have a healthier lifestyle yet, or I have been exposing myself to lots of chemicals and never really thought about it. The good news is you can make that choice now, and that those little choices over time add up to a huge difference in your life. And literally we are proof of that. So 7 years ago is kind of when I started to explore even things like getting rid of candles in my home, because I was starting to learn that fragrance was a real damaging issue, a real damaging ingredient in a lot of products that I had in my home, causing headaches and more. And so when I took that away, I started exploring more. And those little pieces over time brought me to a point where now today, I have not had to experience those headaches the way I did, and I just swapped to something else. So I like to tell people it's not always that you have to just give something up. It's you're trading. You're trading what you're already doing for something else. And those little differences make a big difference over time.
So what I'm hearing you say is that it's never too late.
No.
You know, we love, in Bafil Family Chiropractic, we love to care for everybody. Babies and seniors, and, you know, adjusting someone fresh out of mom's womb and someone who's close to going home to be with our Heavenly Father. It's helping them through those stages and phases in life, but it's never too late to make a change.
It is not.
And, you know, that change that you can do today is going to add life to your years and years to your life. And, you know, I'm also listening to you as well, where you say, okay, those candles that may not be the greatest, that smells good in a moment.
Correct.
You know, that instant gratification that we always deal with in this world. It smells good in a moment, but there is awesome that there are alternatives.
Yes. Simple things.
Like oils, like essential oils.
Absolutely. I even have plug-ins now that go into my bathroom, so I can put an essential oil on a plug-in, and my bathroom, which is a small space where I wouldn't maybe want to burn a candle, right, or something like that, it can still have a nice fragrance, but not something that's toxic for my body.
That's right.
I also like to use things from nature. I take my orange peels or my cinnamon and I let them simmer on the stove, especially in the winter months. The house smells amazing, but I'm not hurting my family while I'm doing it. And again, education is key. Education is key, because I would not have thought, oh, that fragrance is really harmful, until I watched different documentaries, started asking people, talking. It really helped me change my perspective and gave me courage to even try something new.
So, does changing the things that we do, does it have to take time? You know, some people may think, I don't have the time to do this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I got kids, I got work, I have to go grocery shopping, I got laundry to do. I don't have time for this stuff. It's one more thing I got to worry about.
It is, and in one hand, it might take time, but certain things that you can swap to might actually save you time. And they sometimes even save you money.
So saving time and saving your health?
Right.
What more do we want?
It can be really great. And that's what I had found for Norwex too. I can clean my home without using the toxic chemicals. I'm using microfiber and water. And yes, I didn't mention to everyone watching, I am a homeschool mom as well. So it was kind of interesting as I'm on my Norwex journey and I'm teaching my children chemistry and biology in their high school years and starting to remember mine from my high school years.
Some of those things we like to put behind us.
Gone, they were gone. I got to a place where, this is why this is working. The chemistry and biology pieces of science came into play. And so I jokingly tell people, you kind of get a nerdy girl when you get me, because I wanted to know, how do they work? Why do they work? I needed to know. Again, I told you I'm a germaphobe. So that I have found that Norwex now saves me time. It's helping me bring something into my home that is not exposing my family to those toxins that I was bringing in before. And I can clean my home in a faster way, and the dirt ends up staying away longer, because the whole premise with Norwex too is we are mechanically cleaning a surface. Like, we're physically lifting the dirt, grime, bacteria, you name it, from a surface with the microfiber. Our microfiber is incredibly dense. It's very, very it's very fine and densely woven, if I can put it that way. And so when it's moving across a surface, instead of me having to grab a chemical when I'm cleaning, I can just wipe that surface and it's removing everything.
Okay.
One of the demonstrations I try to help people see visually, because this is a really big part of things for me, is when we were going through pandemic time, everyone was on heightened germ alert, right? That term germ. And so
fearful.
Very fearful. And it was fearful for me. And honestly, if I can just take a side note for a quick second, if I hadn't known alternatives at that time, I would have been a person who chemically poisoned my family, because my husband was an essential worker. He had to still go out, and I would have been Lysoling him. I'm not joking. I would have been the person spraying him down before he came in the house, not realizing what I would have been doing. Instead, we had other alternatives now in place that made it easier to deal with. We weren't exposing ourselves. So what I did think about, though, is when we went to the grocery stores, or we went to any place at that time, the stores would then implement someone at the door who was the cart attendant. Do you remember that? When you go, okay, right, this was a new thing. And the cart attendant was there to help us feel like they were doing everything they could in their power. And I believe that they were doing everything that they could in their power with the limited knowledge they had.
Correct.
So this is, again, where knowledge is power and helps us to make new choices.
Yes.
So at that door, they were taking a wipe, a disinfectant wipe, and they were wiping the handle. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot. How did you watch them do it? If you could show me, like, with emotion, or how did you see it happen?
Well, they had it in their hand. And they may have been wearing gloves at that time because everybody was wearing gloves except for me. And then they would just wipe it down, like push on it, and that was about it. There wasn't anything technical to it.
Correct.
It's kind of like kids at a car wash wiping down the car. They missed a few spots.
Right. Well, beyond that, as I became interested in reading the labels, food labels, chemical labels here, I started to look on the back and realized that in order for you to clean a surface with a chemical, there's actually 3 steps that have to take place. And it's listed right on the packaging. Number 1, there needs to be a pre-wash on any surface. So if you have a spot in your home that's lightly soiled or heavily soiled, you still need to take a fresh cloth and water and wipe all of that away. Well, me being a germaphobe, one of the grossest things for me was raw meats. I was always like, ooh, raw meats in the house, gotta make sure I clean a surface, right? I never washed it first. I always went right to the chemical. But according to the package directions, you need a pre-wash. The second step then is the chemical, and that's what I like to call the time to kill. You need to actually apply the chemical for a specific amount of time. Now, I wrote a number 4 on this one because this one on the package says that you need a 4-minute dwell time of the chemical on the surface in order for it to be there long enough to interact with any foreign substance. Okay. Now we can talk germ, we could talk bacteria, virus, we could use any of that. It's the umbrella. In order for that to be cleaned off of a surface, it has to wait for 4 minutes. Right on the package all over. It's telling you it will do that, but if you don't follow the instructions, it won't. So 4-minute dwell time. After that 4-minute dwell time, then you're supposed to take a clean cloth and clean water and wash all that residue away.
That sounds like a very tedious and time-consuming process.
It is, and no one was doing it.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it in my home when I would do this. Actually, even our church, the protocol between nursery services is wipe all the kids' toys down with this, not realizing we're leaving a chemical smear all over that then goes where? Usually in the mouth. Again, inhalation, ingestion, and absorption.
Especially with kids' stuff, I mean, everything goes in their mouth. Absolutely.
So if you want, I could take a quick second to show you the difference between how this works. Just since you invited me here, this is one thing I can show you with Norwex. I like to take our EnviroCloth. This is my everything cloth. I use it from top to bottom in my home, inside and out. I always have this in use. Again, it is ultra fine microfiber, very, very densely woven, and it is made to pick up 99% of what's on the surface. Well, we can't usually see that because those pieces are microscopic pieces. They're things we can't see.
Right.
So what I then found, and this I found through the pandemic, is a product called Glow Germ. It is not an actual germ, but it simulates how germs move on a surface. And we know that germs can be coughed out and airborne, sneezed out and airborne, but they also can be moved through touching. And so this is going to allow us to really see here what happens with the difference between how a chemical like this wipe cleans and the Norwex cleans. And then the really interesting thing about this glowing powder is it does glow under a black light.
Oh, wow.
I know. So I told you a nerdy girl here. I bring all the things because, again, I like to be able to help people have confidence that it really sometimes is a simple choice and a simple swap. And since people are already spending money here, they can choose something different in their life that brings the same or better result. Maybe saves them time and saves them money. We get the full impact of what we're doing. But this glow powder does show up under a black light. So what I'd like to do first is if you'll turn the lights off, please. I'm going to show you how, boom, it just goes really, really light. Hopefully the camera is picking that up for us as well. This to me is that moment when I'm out in public and I'm thinking about how germs move, right? There's no glowing powder over here, but look, if I transfer it, ooh, it does. That's somebody coughing, somebody sneezing. It can actually move from surface to surface, right? I'm gonna wipe that off here. Now if you'll turn the lights on for me, please. There we go. I'm going to use a wipe. Most people only use one when they are wiping a surface, and if you are going to have to leave that wet for 4 minutes, and the average chemical is 4 to 10 minutes. It can even be as long as 10 minutes. For the people who use vinegar and lemons and essential oils, you still need 10 minutes of a wet dwell time. So always read the package, right? I'm going to wipe until the powder looks gone, because that's really how people clean, right? They just wipe what's there.
That's right.
You just wipe what's there. We're going to wipe it.
I mean, I do.
I
never clean good enough for my wife.
Okay. Jill's the cleaner in the house, everybody,
oh, yes.
right? Okay. So I've got the powder gone, right? Powder's gone. Let's take a look with the black light again. Do you want to do the lights one more time?
Yep.
Okay. How's that look?
It looks like it is spread out like filling up a pie pan.
We literally just spread it everywhere, okay? Now, where this is made to spread a chemical, the chemical's meant to sit for 4 to 10 minutes wet in order for it to disinfect or kill anything on the surface. For me, because I'm a busy mom and I don't want to expose my family to anything like that, I use a Norwex cloth and I wipe. Are you ready with the lights?
Yes, sir.
A dramatic difference. Now,
it's kind of like magic.
It is. So if this was like years ago, I used to use this on my kids' high chair. That's how I cleaned their high chairs.
Okay.
Now, would I want to feed them from this side or the middle? Right? I only want to...
I mean, logically, I would say middle, but, let's just fill up the plate with the food.
I don't want to be putting their food on that chemical residue that's all over the place. So I have learned that with Norwex microfiber, it picks up all of what's on the surface, and when I do fold it into quarters, you have 8 fresh sides, so you can just move from side to side. I even got some on your counter here, so we can just wipe it all up, and you can physically see how the product works. We lift,
and there's no chemical in there. It's just water.
This is just water. I wet it right in your sink.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Does that help?
Yeah.
It really made a difference for me to be able to see this and know that I can have a cleaner, safer, better option, and it's fast.
So what an awesome demonstration to see how it spreads out. And as you said, it takes time for that chemical to get in there.
Yes.
But then with the Norwex cloth, it's just a cloth and water, swipe, and it pulled it away onto that cloth. It's interesting, and there was no chemicals involved.
Yeah.
So my inquiring mind, as I'm thinking about this and listening to you, is where does chiropractic fit in? How does that fall in line? And I'm thinking, well, chiropractic, we're not using chemicals to change somebody's pain. We're adjusting the spine where those areas are subluxated, fixated, stuck together, putting pressure. Just 4 to 10 ounces of pressure on that nerve is going to decrease its output 60-70%. And when it's left there long enough, everybody around it, the supporting cast, the muscles start to change.
Yes.
And as we were talking earlier about posture, that plays a huge role in that.
Yes.
So there is similarities in
Of
what we're
course.
doing here. It may be slightly different, but there's a lot of similarities.
Absolutely. You're talking chemical, people using chemicals to help them. Via what you're doing is physical. You're physically adjusting.
That's right.
When I am coming into someone's home, they're using chemicals to clean, and I'm telling them this is a physical removal.
How about that?
It's a physical removal.
Yeah.
You saw it. It takes it right away. And it's the mechanics and science of how the microfibers cut and split. I won't go into all of that, but if someone needed to know that, they could absolutely contact me because I've explored that. I wanted to know how. But the really neat thing is it works. And so does chiropractic. Those physical adjustments, I've come before in a sore state. And I need some help. And the relief that I've experienced is so beautiful. And sometimes it's after the first one, and sometimes it might be after
right.
a little bit, right? So sometimes there's a little bit of a journey in the process, and I feel that for people too, when they're starting to make healthier lifestyle choices, if they tried to do everything at once, it could feel incredibly overwhelming.
Yep, for sure.
And so for me, it's baby stepping into, well, what can you swap that would feel light and easy and be simple? Well, if I'm wiping with this, I can easily wipe with this, and I traded something.
You know, what comes to my mind when we educate our patients, getting them involved in their care plans and their time, it's really about time, frequency, intensity.
Oh, yes.
The time you're putting in for your adjustments, taking that time out of your day and giving it time to work, okay? The frequency of your visits, it's not just one visit, sometimes it might be 12, 30, 50 visits, depending on how long you've been dealing with an issue in your life physically, okay? But then the intensity. How much intensity are you willing to put into making that change? You know, in our realm with the chiropractic office here at Bafio Family Chiropractic, it is attending our workshops, watching what we're talking about here today on our YouTube channel or even our Facebook page, doing your exercises that we recommend, or asking questions to be more educated, to understand the process. It's those three things, time, frequency, intensity, that plays a huge role. I look at something like this, it cuts down your cleaning time, and thus by doing so, the frequency of your cleaning is going to take much less time, okay? And it's really intense. You're doing something so simple, and it is adding, well, just like we do here with chiropractic, life to your years and years to your life.
Yes, it is definitely a healthier way of living. I always like to say to people, you're the gatekeeper of your home, right? If we were talking about food, we'd say you're the gatekeeper of your body.
True.
But with your home, I am the one going to a store shopping, deciding what's going to go in my shopping cart, and then ultimately enter my home, and then my whole family is exposed to those things. So as I start to make simple swaps, it could be, again, that idea of a candle being changed out for essential oils. It could be something as simple as not using that bathroom cleaner that was so heavy on my system, and now using a cloth to wipe. I mean, there's so many ways to explain it. You are definitely moving in a direction where you're going to be simplifying your life. It might not seem it at first. It's simplifying, and it's actually very easy now. I have not had to go down a cleaning aisle in 7 years. Isn't that crazy? Because I never run out of cleaner.
I mean, unfortunate for the cleaning aisle at the grocery stores, but as I try to educate everybody, when you're in the grocery store, you only want to shop the perimeter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. I mean, I've always been taught that there are certain people within the household that make all the major decisions. So in this case, correct me if I'm wrong, it's usually the mom, the female, the wife that makes all the decisions when it comes to whether it's the cleaning, the food, or even the health of the family.
It can be, because again, I find in our home, and I can't speak for everyone, my husband is focused on work. He's providing for our family. And I know there's a lot of women who work full-time too, but that doesn't mean the other job of being a mom goes away.
No.
We have both, right? And so watching out for those things. I mentioned earlier, and this is a really simple one to say as from a mom's perspective, not something having to do with cleaning, but personal care and what I'm doing for my family. I started to question what I was putting on my kids' skin when we would go to the ocean. And you know, you're outside all day and you don't want to have them burn, so I would just use the chemical sunscreen. A lot of people spray their bodies down, and you feel a sense of, I just did good for my family.
You're protected.
I'm protecting them. And then I started to, again, read, research, and I found a woman's website. Her website's kitchenstewardship.com. She did extensive research on all different kinds of sunscreens and which ones are harmful and which ones are helpful. So of course I dug in and I started to find out. And one of the things that I learned from her is that a dose of chemical sunscreen is equivalent to a dose of hormone replacement therapy for our bodies.
Wow.
So I was spraying my kids down, And the chemicals I was adding to their body are endocrine disrupting chemicals. If you're not familiar with that, start looking up EDCs. It's a very big deal for health. And those endocrine disrupting chemicals end up messing with the hormone system. And so it really is simple swaps, learning. So you had asked before, because I did mention this,
Sure.
what to look for. You want to look for a sunscreen that has titanium dioxide or zinc oxide and none of the benzones or things that you can't pronounce. Because those chemically are nanoparticles that absorb into the skin, react with the sun, react with chlorine, and can do a lot of damage to our bodies, where when we find, so this one's a bad one, when we find a good one, and her website has extensive options on there, so I'll just say everybody can go visit that for that if they're interested. She recommends a physical sunscreen, so it's a barrier on top, a non-nanoparticle, and it doesn't allow the sun to absorb.
Okay.
So again, simple things that a mom can do, right? My husband would never think about sunscreen for our family, ever, right? He's not buying it, he's not thinking about it. I am, and I just would have gone to the store and probably shopped with a coupon or bought blindly.
And the guy part of me is burn today, tan tomorrow. I mean, that's just always the way it's always been. It's a base, and it'll work its way out. But I'm not afraid of the sun or anything like that. But let's look at it this way: our bodies, it's a gift. And if we were to look at our bodies, our family members, our time with each other as a gift, maybe we would steward things a little bit differently. Not saying that we've all given into, unfortunately, laziness. It's consumption of distractions on a daily basis. So it is pausing for a second, a moment, doing a little bit of research. I mean, my goodness, we're all on our phones all the time. It takes just a little bit to look at something, gain a little bit of knowledge, and look for maybe someone like Lisa to get some wisdom, some insight. That's why we're doing this here today, to share some wisdom on how to do things differently.
Norwex gives me an opportunity to partner with people. When I find that they are ready to make a few changes, I'm able to start asking them questions about what's their priority, what's their goal, and then form a plan that says, okay, well, another thing that's really big, and it doesn't have anything to do right now with what I'm talking about, water. The quality of your water in your home is so huge, right? Like there's so many simple things we can start talking about that really actually play a huge part. But it's listening to a friend. A friend recommends something, don't just dismiss it. There might be some real validity there of, ooh, this has worked for my family. Even though it's not traditional, it might be something that's really worth exploring a little bit that could open up a whole new opportunity for the health and overall well-being of your family.
One thing that came to my mind just listening to you right now is just like whenever I attend church and a scripture is being brought up, I don't just take their word for it. I do my own time of reading and studying so that I can absorb it a little bit more of what that fully means for me. So I like what you said, don't just take the word for it, research a little bit. It doesn't take a lot of time and effort. And so you're sowing seeds when you make some of these changes. We don't always reap that harvest instantaneously. It's not like driving up to the fast food restaurant, tell them what you want, you go to the next window and you get it. Life just doesn't always happen that way. So it's just a matter of being patient, watering that. But once that leaf comes out of the ground, the whole plant is there. You don't always see what's under the ground, and what it has is there. It just needs to continue to grow. So it's the choices, again, that we make. You had shown me something a little bit ago with a baby diaper.
Yes, I actually was just thinking about that again. Yes, we could talk about that again.
Before we round the corner here and the landing gear comes down in the plane, I really, something you said about that earlier really touched me.
Well, when I was growing up, I didn't grow up desiring to become a Norwex consultant. Like, that wasn't my thing. I attended a demonstration, and the information presented just made me curious. And out of that curiosity, God did bring more information as I was seeking. He brought it, right? And He's good and faithful like that to bring it. And so One of the websites that I use, and there's many, again, if somebody needs resources, they can reach us later on, and I'd be happy to present them. One of the websites that I use to find out if chemicals are clean or dirty,
Okay.
I was visiting their website, and they had done some research about quite a few years ago on how do these chemicals in all of the products that we use, like I brought a couple today. I brought the antibacterial body wash that I was using for my family. I brought the sunscreen I used to use for my family. I brought the deodorant I used to wear. I brought the makeup I used to wear, and I brought the hand sanitizer that I used to use.
Bathe in, yes.
Right. Used to. This is the good news. I don't buy these anymore. I don't need them anymore. But when I was using them, I had no idea of that idea of absorption and body burden and accumulation. They say that the average woman will expose herself to 168 different chemicals daily from the personal care products she's putting on. So think about a woman, think about her being a mama. And as a mama, we are so careful about what we put in our mouths. Right? Big, big, big deal. Like they tell you at the doctor's office, don't have tuna fish, don't eat the deli meats, don't do those things.
Yeah. What can you do? Don't breathe.
No one's talking about what that mom is putting on her skin. Okay? What's she wearing for deodorant? What kind of shampoo is she using? And so I watched a video. You can go see it on YouTube. It's called 10 Americans. It's out there. And the EWG did orchestrated a test on these 10 different babies. And they took a cord blood sample from each of the 10 babies and collectively found 287 toxic chemicals present in the cord blood.
But that perfect little baby has not been, assaulted by the things in this life enough or long enough to have that.
We would think, but in 9 months of time in mother's womb, if eating tuna fish and deli meats affects them, everything they're putting on their body, the 168 chemicals daily I just mentioned, is accumulating for the next generation as well. Out of those 287 chemicals, 80 of them are cancer-causing chemicals. They did the research. They checked all the boxes. What were these chemicals? So we have generations of children being pre-polluted, if I could use that word. That was never the way God intended. But again, the brokenness of sin and the fall of man has orchestrated all of this. The good news I like to say to people is little choices matter, right?
Yeah.
Little things matter. And so if we want to be able to make a difference, we can't just look at what we put in our mouth. We have to look at what we are exposing our whole body to. And so with this, I take this little diaper goes with me everywhere, and I try to use it as a way to say, okay, a visual. Next time you see that baby diaper, you're going to think about that. You're going to think about, oh, that the exposure is going to the next generation. Years ago, I didn't mention this to you earlier, lead became a big issue, right? So they started to ban lead in a lot of states. So what did they find as they started testing blood? That the lead wasn't showing up in the blood anymore. So if the bad news is true that the accumulation of a body burden leads to poor health and health issues and concerns, the good news is it's a math equation. The less we use in exposing ourselves, the better we're setting ourselves up for optimal health.
So I'm thinking of, like profit and loss statements, that if we are spending less and our income is at a certain point, then we have, as my friend would always say, margin. Okay? But if we're spending more and not much money's coming in, and if we kind of feel the tightening of that in our society today, there's not a lot of margin there for error.
Correct.
Okay? But the little choices do matter. I think that's going to be the title of this.
Okay.
Little choices
I love
matter.
it.
And it's interesting. You showed us all those typical cleaning, deodorant, antibacterial stuff that you would have in your home. And I heard the voice of my mother say, used to doesn't live here anymore. These are the things that she used to use.
Yes.
And not anymore.
Correct. And it's a blessing for my family, because I'm not spending as much for our overall family budget, and that money can be used for other things that are a blessing. The nice thing that we try to focus on with Norwex is we want products that are safe, and I'm using microfiber and water. We like to champion products that are effective. You saw a 99% removal with just the microfiber and water alone, not having to wait 4 to 10 minutes for a chemical to work, not exposing ourselves to the chemicals. So we like safe, we like effective, and then sustainability. As believers, we are supposed to make wise choices with our money that go the extra mile. When I stopped using, and this is just a small representation, when I stopped buying all of these things, I'm not throwing money away. I'm not adding plastic to the recycling center. I'm not adding as much garbage to the landfill, or so much into the ocean.
So no one forced you to do this. No one said, okay, we're going to have a regulation and we're going to mandate that you have to stop doing these things and do it this way. Just like we have free will.
Yes.
To choose.
Yes.
Again, those little choices. And by you taking that personal stance for you and your family and your health, just like chiropractic patients coming into Bafil Family Chiropractic, they're making a choice to do something different. And the experience that they get here in this office is definitely different.
It's absolutely different.
And
because, if I can say real quick, because it's different, we want to share it, so it's like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
If you've ever thrown a pebble into water, you start to see that ripple effect. By coming here, we've already, as a family, wanted to encourage other of our friends and family members to experience what they experienced at Bafil, because we had experienced a difference in our health and well-being as a family.
Yeah.
And so that ripple effect is huge. Referring people, I'm sure that referrals is a beautiful thing for your overall business.
It tells me we're doing a good job, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm thankful for your trust and confidence in that fact that you have referred others and continually, and that's why doing this today, to share that information of how to make different little choices can affect you in a long, long way. Lisa, my statement is really, my desire is to connect with others in hopes to inspire them to experience abundance in their life. And I feel we've done that here today, making that connection with you and I, but then also with everybody else, and giving that knowledge, that information, but also, telling a few stories on how to do this. That's allowing you to see firsthand. It's not just facts. And that should hopefully inspire you. And by taking action, we're going to put some information on how to get in touch with you, Lisa, and then information about how to get in touch with Bafil Family Chiropractic. Taking action is making a different choice, doing something differently.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me today. It really was a blessing to be able to, again, partner together, to know that even just one I always say it, one little swap, one little change can make a difference for a lifetime for an individual. And then when you become a person who does speak it to others, the ripple effect can be huge. It can be so widespread that it ends up being a real big change.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, very much for tuning in. And I just ask that you subscribe, share, and like this, so that we can get it out there to more and more people and making a difference in their lives, and so that they can experience more.